There's a version of you that shows up around day 21 of your cycle. She doesn't believe she's enough. She apologizes for taking up space. She looks in the mirror and feels like a stranger. She shrinks. She doubts every decision she made that week. She wonders if she's too much or not enough or somehow both at the same time. And you've been told that this is just PMS, that it's emotional, that it will pass. But what if it's not just a mood? What if that version of you, the one that doesn't feel worthy, doesn't feel visible, doesn't feel like herself, what if she has been running the show the entire time? Not just for a few days a month, but as the default setting of how you see yourself. Because here's what nobody in the self-image space is talking about. Your self-image wasn't built by your thoughts. It was built by your biology. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how your hormones wrote the code of who you believe you are and how to rewrite it.
Most people in the mindset world will tell you that your reality is a reflection of your beliefs, and that's partially true, but they skip the most important question. Where did those beliefs come from? The manifestation coaches will say, change your thoughts. The affirmation gurus will say, repeat new words until you believe them. The confidence coaches will say, fake it until you make it. And you've tried all of it. You wrote the journal pages. You repeated, I am worthy in the mirror. You took the courses. You did the work. And somewhere around day 19 of your cycle, it all collapsed. Because a belief you can't feel in your body is not a belief. It's just a sentence. Here's what quantum physics and endocrinology, yes, both, actually agree on. Reality is not something that happens to you. It is something that is constructed by you. But that construction doesn't start in your mind. It starts in your cells. Your brain is not a neutral observer of who you are. Your brain is constantly being bathed in chemical signals: estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, testosterone. And those signals don't just affect your mood. They affect your perception of yourself. They affect what feels possible, what feels safe, what feels like you. So when people say, just change your mindset, they are trying to renovate a building without understanding who built it. And for women, the architect has a name. It's your hormonal cycle.
Let me show you what I mean. Self-image is not just how you see yourself in the mirror. Self-image is the internal architecture, the invisible blueprint that determines what you believe you're allowed to have, how much you're allowed to earn, how visible you're allowed to be, how deeply you're allowed to be loved. It determines what feels normal for you and what feels like too much. The researcher Maxwell Maltz called it the psycho-cybernetic mechanism, the internal thermostat that keeps you at a certain level of self-worth no matter what you do externally. You can change your clothes, your job, your relationship, and still feel exactly the same inside. Because you haven't changed the thermostat, you've just rearranged the furniture. Now, here's where it gets specific to us as women. That thermostat is not fixed. It fluctuates. Every single month, your hormones run a cycle that physically changes how your brain processes emotional memory, how much cortisol your body produces under stress, how your amygdala responds to perceived threat, how your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for identity and decision-making, actually functions.
In the first half of your cycle, estrogen rises, and with it, clarity, confidence, expansion. You feel like yourself. You feel capable. You feel seen. In the second half, progesterone rises and estrogen drops, and with it, sensitivity, contraction, self-doubt. The same mirror, the same face, a completely different woman. This is not weakness. This is not an excuse. This is architecture. And if you don't understand the architecture, you will spend your entire life fighting yourself instead of building yourself.
So let me give you the 4 codes that your hormones have been writing in your subconscious since the very first time your cycle began. Code 1, emotion. The language of the subconscious is not words. It is feeling. And for women, feelings are not random. They are hormonal. When estrogen is high, dopamine and serotonin follow. Your brain literally produces more feel-good chemicals. You feel deserving, you feel magnetic, you feel like your desires make sense.
When estrogen drops in the luteal phase, combined with rising cortisol, your nervous system enters a low-grade threat state. And in a threat state, your subconscious doesn't ask, what do I want? It asks, am I safe? And a woman who doesn't feel safe cannot hold an expanded self-image. She contracts, she doubts, she apologizes. Not because she's weak, because her biology is doing exactly what it was designed to do, protect her. The problem is, she thinks that contraction is the truth of who she is. Code 2, meaning. Every hormonal shift your body goes through comes with an emotional experience, and your mind does something automatic with that experience. It assigns a meaning. The first time you felt invisible in a room full of people, was it day 21 of your cycle? The first time you felt like you weren't smart enough for the promotion, was your progesterone crashing? The first time you believed you were too emotional to be taken seriously, was your cortisol through the roof? You didn't choose those meanings. Your biology created the emotional state, your environment provided the story, and your subconscious filed it as fact. I am not enough is not a belief you chose. It is a meaning that was assigned to a hormonal moment and then repeated month after month after month until it became the architecture of your identity. Code 3, expectation. Your brain is a prediction machine, and your hormonal history has trained it to predict very specific things about you. If every time estrogen dropped, you felt like a failure, your brain learned to anticipate failure when estrogen drops. If every time you were in your luteal phase, people told you were too much, your brain learned to expect rejection when you're most vulnerable. These predictions become expectations, and expectations become the lens through which you experience reality. You don't see the world as it is. You see the world as your hormonal history taught you to see it. Code 4, permission. This is the deepest one. Permission is the invisible ceiling that your self-image enforces. How much success are you allowed to have? How much love? How much visibility? How much joy? For most women, permission was granted or denied in the moments when their bodies were most vulnerable, in the cyclical lows, in the hormonal crashes, in the moments when the world looked at them and they looked back at themselves and didn't recognize who they saw. And the permission slip that was issued in those moments said, not yet, not you, not this much. And that slip has been running your life ever since. This is why affirmations don't work the way they promised. Not because you're not trying hard enough, not because you don't believe enough, not because manifestation is fake, but because you are trying to install a new belief into an operating system that gets overwritten every 28 days by your own biology. You affirm, I am confident on day 10. And on day 22, your body floods with cortisol and drops estrogen. And every unresolved emotional memory associated with failure and unworthiness rises to the surface. And you think, I knew it. I'm not really changing. But that's not the truth. The truth is, you've been trying to repaint the walls of a building that was designed to collapse. The solution is not more affirmations. The solution is not more discipline. The solution is not to fight your cycle. The solution is to understand the architecture and rebuild it from the inside. Which means working with your cycle, not against it. Which means understanding when your subconscious is most open to reprogramming. Which means learning to distinguish between a belief that is true and a belief that is hormonal. Because not every thought you think is yours. Some of them were written by estrogen. Some of them were written by cortisol. Some of them were written by a 14-year-old version of you who had her first luteal phase and didn't have anyone to explain what was happening. So I want you to do something right now. If you're in a place where you can close your eyes, do it. If not, just slow down, breathe. Take a deep breath in through your nose and slowly out through your mouth. One more time. In and out. Now,
I want you to think about the version of yourself that you've been apologizing for. The one who wants more. The one who feels too much. The one who reaches for something bigger and then pulls back. The one who shows up in the mirror on day 21 and doesn't recognize herself. I want you to understand something about her. She is not broken. She's a woman whose self-image was written in the language of survival, by a biology that was protecting her, in a world that didn't understand her, at moments when she had no map. And now, you have the map. The architecture of your self-image was built from 4 codes: emotion, meaning, expectation, and permission. And each one of those codes can be rewritten, not by fighting your hormones, but by understanding them deeply enough to know when you're in a state of expansion and use that window to install new beliefs, new meanings, new permissions. Because here is what I know about you. You didn't end up here by accident. You've been searching for the real answer, not the one that tells you to try harder, not the one that sells you a morning routine, but the one that finally makes sense of the woman you've been and opens the door to the woman you're becoming. You are not too much. You are not too emotional. You are not broken. You are a woman who has been running on a misunderstood operating system. And understanding is the first act of reprogramming.
Every woman has a broken self-image. Not because she failed, not because she's weak, not because she didn't try hard enough, but because no one ever told her that her self-image wasn't built in her head. It was built in her body. Month after month, cycle after cycle, in every hormonal low where she looked at herself and believed the contraction was the truth. But the contraction is not the truth. The architect is. And the architect, the one who gets to decide what this building looks like from now on, is you. Not the version of you on day 22. Not the version of you that cortisol built. You. Awake, informed, choosing. If this video opened something in you, leave a comment below and tell me, which of the 4 codes do you recognize most in yourself? Emotion, meaning, expectation, or permission? Because the conversation we're building here about what it really means to be a woman who understands herself, it starts with that answer. I'll see you in the next one.